Jimmy Haslam is about to hold a press conference that nobody in the Cleveland Browns organization wanted him to do, and what he's planning to say about Nick Chubb's future could trigger the biggest locker room revolt in franchise history. According to sources who've been briefed on Haslam's talking points, the owner is preparing to publicly address Chubb's return from injury, his role moving forward, and whether the Browns are committed to him long-term. And the problem is that Haslam's planned comments directly contradict what the coaching staff and front office have been telling Chubb privately for weeks. Haslam is about to create uncertainty around a player who's battled back from a career-threatening injury and given everything to this franchise. The timing is devastating. The potential fallout is massive, and if what sources are saying is true, Haslam could be about to sabotage Nick Chubb's confidence and destroy whatever trust remains between ownership and the players. This press conference is scheduled for tomorrow, and the entire Browns organization is holding its breath. February 12, 2026, late afternoon. The Cleveland Browns issue a surprise announcement that sends reporters scrambling. Jimmy Haslam, the team's owner, has scheduled a press conference for tomorrow, February 13th, to address the state of the franchise heading into the 2026 season. On the surface, that sounds routine. Owners do press conferences all the time during the offseason. But according to sources inside the Browns organization who've been briefing reporters throughout the evening, this press conference is anything but routine. And the reason it's happening is because Jimmy Haslam wants to talk about Nick Chubb's return and his future with the team. And that has everyone inside the Browns facility terrified. Let me explain why this press conference is such a massive problem and why what Haslam could say about Nick Chubb might blow up the entire organization. Nick Chubb has been the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns since being drafted in 2018. 4 Pro Bowls, over 6,500 rushing yards, 48 touchdowns. He's been everything this franchise could have asked for: professional, productive, humble, the exact opposite of the dysfunction that defines the organization. Then came the devastating knee injury in September 2024, a torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus in the same knee he catastrophically injured at Georgia. The injury looked career-threatening. Doctors weren't sure he'd ever play at an elite level. But Chubb attacked his rehab with relentless determination, 18 months of grueling work, and by early 2026, he was finally cleared to return to football activities. The Browns publicly celebrated his progress. Coaches praised his work ethic. Everything suggested Chubb would be welcomed back as the featured running back. But behind the scenes, a very different story was unfolding. According to sources who've been leaking information for weeks, Jimmy Haslam has been questioning whether Nick Chubb can still be an elite running back at 30 years old, coming off such a devastating injury. Haslam has been pressuring Andrew Berry and the coaching staff to have a backup plan at running back. He's been pushing for the team to draft Chubb's eventual replacement in the 2026 draft. And most importantly, Haslam has been privately expressing concerns about Chubb's contract, which still has 2 years remaining at over $12 million per season. With the Browns in salary cap hell because of the Deshaun Watson disaster, Haslam sees Chubb's contract as an opportunity to save money. The coaching staff, led by Todd Monken, has been trying to shield Chubb from all of this. They've been reassuring him that he's still the starter, that the team believes in him, that his job is secure. They've been working with him on his conditioning and recovery, getting him ready for the 2026 season. But now, according to sources, Jimmy Haslam is about to undermine all of that work by going public with his doubts about Chubb's future. Here's what sources are saying Haslam plans to address during tomorrow's press conference. First, Haslam is expected to talk about Chubb's injury recovery and praise his work ethic and dedication. This will be the diplomatic, corporate part of the press conference, standard owner speak. But then, sources say, Haslam plans to introduce uncertainty. He's going to say something along the lines of, "We need to see Nick on the field in competitive situations before we can commit to him as our starting running back moving forward." That one sentence would be devastating because it publicly questions Chubb's ability to perform, creates doubt about his role, and sends a message to the entire league that the Browns aren't confident in him anymore.
Second, Haslam is reportedly planning to discuss the team's draft strategy and specifically mentioned that the Browns are exploring all options at the running back position, including the draft. Again, this seems innocuous on the surface. Teams always explore options in the draft. But in the context of questioning Chubb's future, it becomes a public declaration that the Browns are already planning to replace him. Third, and this is the most damaging part according to sources, Haslam is planning to address Chubb's contract. He's expected to say something like, "We have to make tough financial decisions as an organization, and we'll evaluate every contract, including Nick's, as we prepare for the future." That's code for, "We want Chubb to take a pay cut, and we're going to use public pressure to make it happen." When word of Haslam's planned talking points leaked to reporters this evening, the reaction inside the Browns organization was immediate and panicked. According to sources, Andrew Berry, the general manager, called an emergency meeting with Haslam and begged him not to go forward with the press conference. Berry reportedly told Haslam that publicly questioning Chubb would destroy morale, undermine the coaching staff's relationship with players, and make the Browns look dysfunctional yet again. Todd Monken, the head coach, also spoke with Haslam and warned him that creating uncertainty around Chubb could fracture the locker room. Monken has been trying to build a culture of trust and stability, and Haslam's comments would blow all of that up. But according to sources, Haslam refused to cancel the press conference. He told Berry and Monken that he's the owner, he has the right to speak publicly about the team's direction, and he's not going to be muzzled by his own employees. That response tells you everything about why the Browns are so dysfunctional. The owner doesn't listen to his football people. He makes decisions based on ego and control, rather than what's best for the team.
As word spread throughout the Browns facility that Haslam was moving forward with the press conference despite objections from Berry and Monken, players started reacting. According to sources, multiple veterans approached Nick Chubb privately this evening to warn him about what might be coming tomorrow. They told him that Haslam might question his future publicly, and they wanted Chubb to be prepared. Chubb, according to sources, was stunned. He couldn't believe that after everything he's done for the organization, after battling back from a career-threatening injury, the owner would publicly create doubt about his role. Sources say Chubb immediately called his agent to discuss how to respond if Haslam does question his future during the press conference. The agent reportedly told Chubb that if Haslam disrespects him publicly, Chubb should consider requesting a trade. That would be massive. Nick Chubb has never asked out of Cleveland. He's been loyal through all the losing, all the coaching changes, all the dysfunction. But if the owner publicly undermines him, that loyalty could finally break. Myles Garrett, the team's leader and defensive captain, also reached out to Chubb tonight. According to sources, Garrett told Chubb, "Don't let them disrespect you. You've earned your spot here. If they try to push you out, we'll have your back." That kind of player solidarity is powerful, but it also sets up a potential confrontation between the locker room and ownership if Haslam says the wrong thing tomorrow. Other players have been texting each other throughout the evening, expressing disbelief that Haslam would do this. One player told a reporter, "We're trying to build something here, and the owner keeps blowing it up. How are we supposed to trust this organization when stuff like this keeps happening?" The coaching staff is equally frustrated. According to sources, position coaches have been working with Chubb for weeks, getting him ready for the season, building his confidence back after the injury, and now Haslam is about to potentially undo all of that work with one press conference. Todd Monken is reportedly furious but powerless. He can't stop Haslam from speaking. He can't control the narrative. All he can do is try to clean up the mess afterward. Meanwhile, the national media is starting to catch wind that something big might happen at tomorrow's press conference. Reporters who cover the Browns are being tipped off by sources that Haslam could create controversy around Nick Chubb.
NFL insiders are preparing to break the story the moment Haslam says anything newsworthy. This has all the makings of a public relations disaster.
But here's what makes this situation even more complicated. There's a financial angle that's driving Haslam's decision to speak publicly about Chubb. According to sources familiar with the Browns' salary cap situation, the team is in desperate need of cap space for 2026. The Deshaun Watson contract has destroyed their financial flexibility. They can barely afford to sign free agents or extend their own players. One of the easiest ways to create cap space would be to restructure Nick Chubb's contract or convince him to take a pay cut. But Chubb, who's earned every dollar of his current deal, has no incentive to voluntarily give money back to a billionaire owner. So Haslam's strategy, according to sources, is to create public pressure. By questioning Chubb's ability to perform and suggesting the team has other options, Haslam is trying to manipulate Chubb into accepting less money to stay with the team. It's a calculated move disguised as honest evaluation, and it's exactly the kind of owner meddling that has destroyed the Browns for over a decade. If Haslam executes this strategy tomorrow, if he publicly questions Chubb and creates uncertainty about his role, it could work in the short term. Chubb might feel pressured to restructure just to avoid the embarrassment and prove himself. But the long-term damage would be catastrophic. Players would see how the organization treats loyal veterans. Free agents would be hesitant to sign with Cleveland, and the locker room's trust in ownership, which is already shaky, would be completely destroyed. There's also a racial element to this situation that some observers are starting to mention. Nick Chubb is a black running back who's been nothing but professional and productive, and now a white billionaire owner is publicly questioning his value and trying to pressure him into taking less money. Whether Haslam realizes it or not, the optics of this situation are terrible, and if Chubb's supporters start framing this as another example of how the NFL treats black players, especially running backs, it could become a much bigger story than just a contract negotiation. As of right now, late on February 12, 2026, Nick Chubb has not made any public comments about tomorrow's press conference. His agent has advised him to stay silent until he hears exactly what Haslam says. But sources close to Chubb say he's preparing for the worst. He knows Haslam well enough to understand that the owner doesn't care about player feelings or organizational harmony. Haslam cares about money and control, and if embarrassing Chubb publicly helps Haslam save a few $1 million, he'll do it without hesitation. The Browns' front office is bracing for chaos. Andrew Berry has reportedly told his staff to be ready to do damage control the moment the press conference ends. Todd Monken has scheduled a team meeting for tomorrow afternoon to address whatever fallout comes from Haslam's comments.
And the players are watching closely. If Haslam disrespects Nick Chubb tomorrow, if he publicly questions one of the team's most respected veterans, the locker room could revolt. This isn't just about one press conference. This is about whether the Cleveland Browns can ever build a functional, stable organization while Jimmy Haslam owns the team. The answer, based on over a decade of evidence, is probably not. Tomorrow's press conference is scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The entire football world will be watching, and depending on what Jimmy Haslam says about Nick Chubb's future, it could be the moment that finally breaks whatever's left of the Browns' relationship with their best players. Jimmy Haslam's press conference tomorrow could create the biggest crisis yet in Cleveland. If he publicly questions Nick Chubb's future after everything Chubb has done for this franchise, the locker room could revolt and the dysfunction would reach new levels. Whether Haslam realizes it or not, what he says tomorrow will define how players, fans, and the entire NFL view the Browns for years to come. And based on his track record, it's probably going to be a disaster.